Okay, so I guess there is a part 2 to this hearing. There's nobody telling you what's going on. They're just going in and out. This is Fox 2 Detroit. It doesn't seem like there's a whole lot more left here, maybe a few more minutes. So let's finish watching.
where they don't have access to abortions. And as states enact new and tighten existing restrictions, and as the impacts of these cruel laws grow, more and
Just like it came and went earlier, it's just going to come up in a second.
leave from their jobs and flee their states to get the care they need. And
I mean, maybe they went on lunch. I don't know. It, it, I mean, I'm not sure if we missed anything. If we did, everybody did because this is the only place that's streaming it, but at least the whole thing. So, I mean, it doesn't even tell us what's going on. It just says, it just picks back up. She's sitting there saying, Lord, I need a drink. I'm withdrawing. See if she gets the shakes or anything from withdrawals. See how she keeps going out, and then she might be under the influence of something right now. I mean, alcohol. Alcohol. Did they have any? I didn't even notice. Did they have any security around her? They needed to. Because I bet this family's about ready to charge her ass. They don't. They don't. Well, there's a security guy right there, I guess. But I mean, you'd think they'd have somebody standing behind her. Could they have finished everything, all of the questioning, and then they took a break, and the judge is like, "Okay, come back because we're gonna review my decision. I'm gonna take a couple hours and then review my decision." Because this literally was, if I look at the video, hang on, I'll tell you. And by the way, we'll watch that video again. Some of it, some of it I don't care to watch again because they showed too much of the victims, I thought. Yeah, it's like a 3 hour difference.
All rise.
So I don't know what the
First
heck
day of the
happened.
court is back in session. You may be seated.
He needs a
We
microphone.
have to act on the record on people who Chidester. People may call their next witness.
Your Honor, people call Diane Medina.
Well, I guess it's not over. All right, I'm going on mute now.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Me too.
Please state your name and spell your name for the record.
Diane Medina. DianeMedina.
Dina, would you like a glass of water during your testimony?
No, I'm okay.
People may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Medina, are you familiar with the Swan Boat Club?
Yes,
How are you familiar with it?
I'm a member of Slum Boat Club.
And were you there on April 20th of this year?
I was.
What brought you to the boat club on that day?
I was there for a child's birthday party.
And are you related to the child? What brought you to the birthday party?
I know the mother of the child.
Friends with the
Just a
mom.
friend, yes.
Okay. Do you know approximately what time you arrived at the birthday party?
About 10 minutes to 1.
And do you remember where you were prior to the crash?
I was sitting at a table against the back wall where the car entered.
And can you describe the situation prior to the crash?
It was a beautiful party. I mean, the mother of the child did an amazing job and everybody was having a great time. It was just, any 3-year-old would have been happy to have that birthday party.
Do you remember anything about the crash?
Yes,
Can you tell me what you remember about the crash?
I remember hearing a super loud, sounded like an explosion. I remember seeing like white dust, peripheral vision, and I felt something hit my back and pushed me.
Do you know if you lost consciousness?
I do not.
And were you injured as a result of that crash?
Yes, I was.
Do you know what injuries you sustained?
My pelvis was broken in 6 places. I had internal bleeding. My nose was crushed. I had a hematoma on my right arm. A laceration to my head. And some other things I can't think of anything else.
Did you have a closed head injury?
Yes,
And were you taken to the hospital on that day?
I was.
Do you know what hospital you were taken to?
Originally I was taken to Monroe.
Did you stay at Monroe?
I did not.
Do you know where you were taken after that?
I was taken by ambulance to Toledo.
Was this all the same day?
Yes, it was.
Were you admitted to the Toledo Hospital?
Yes, I was.
Do you know approximately how long you were there?
I was there approximately, I was in the hospital for 17 days. I think I was at Toledo for 10.
Okay. Were you at a different hospital after Toledo then?
I went to a rehab facility in Taylor.
How are you doing today?
I've been better.
Understandable. Are you able to walk?
I can take steps with the help of a walker.
Are you in any pain at the moment?
Yes,
Do you take pain
I
medication?
do.
Does it affect your ability to testify today?
I didn't take it this morning.
Do you have issues sitting or standing for long periods of
I
time?
do.
What do you have? What is that issue?
My tailbone hurts, my hips hurt, and when I stand for a long period of time, my back hurts.
Were you employed prior to the
I
crash?
was.
How so?
I was quality control for Hollingsworth.
Are you employed now?
I am not.
Are
Well, I'm still employed, but I'm on a medical leave.
You're not working. You're unable to work.
Right.
And that is by your doctor's orders?
Yes,
Are you in any therapy?
I am.
What kind of therapy are you taking?
I do physical therapy 3 times a week. I do a speech therapy, 3, and I do a session one time.
The speech therapy for?
The speech therapy, finding my words. Sometimes in the middle of a conversation, I'll in a thought and forget what we
Is that related to the head?
is.
Judge, at this time, we would draw the court's attention to Exhibit 14, the medical records for Diane Medina. These were previously submitted to the court by stipulation of the parties. I have no further questions for this witness, Judge.
That exhibit is admitted to stipulation. Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just have one, ma'am. Injuries that you have suffered were all result with regard to the accident. In other words, you didn't suffer from any of these prior to. Is that
No, I
correct?
did not.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect from the people?
No, nothing further, Judge.
May this witness be excused.
People excuse the witness, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are free to go. Thank you.
I know the sound is hard to.
Let me call their next witness.
Judge, people call it Edward Smothers.
I'm going to have to edit this before it goes out. I'll just put the volume up on it. So I guess these are the people who, I mean, yeah, this poor lady, I mean, people lost their lives, and this woman, she's damned for life from this crash. But, you know, nobody was talking about that because of the babies. Everybody was so upset about the babies. So I wonder if this is all new to the judge, if he knew all these different victims
Please raise
were
your right hand.
involved.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated. Please state your name and spell your name.
Edward Smothers.
And would you please spell?
EWARDSMOUTHERS.
And how old are you?
14.
And you understand the difference between a truth and a lie?
Yeah.
That if I was to say that my rope here was green, would that be a truth or a lie? The objection to qualifying him as a witness.
Not from the people, Judge.
No, I don't know, Your Honor.
He's qualified. You may
Thank you.
proceed.
Good afternoon, Edward. I'm Ken Lorraine from the prosecutor's office. When you're testifying, they're making a recording of this, so you have to keep your voice up a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And you have to answer yes or no, not or nah, or shake your head or things like that, okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Smothers, do you remember going to a birthday party on April 20th of this year?
Yes.
Do you remember if that was at the Swan Boat Club?
Yes.
Do you remember anything happening that day that was unusual that brought you here today to
Yes.
testify? What do you remember?
All I remember is hearing a loud bang and then waking up on the floor.
Okay.
Your Honor, if the witness could just speak up a little bit louder. Thank you, Your Honor.
If you could, please.
Can you just repeat that just a little bit louder?
All I remember is hearing a loud bang and then waking up on the floor.
Okay. Do you remember where you were at before the bang?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you remember where you ended up?
In the walkway from where you get to where the birthday party was.
Okay, like in a hallway or a breezeway?
Yeah, hallway.
Okay. Were you able to walk after the bang, after you got thrown?
No.
Okay. Did paramedics and ambulance eventually come?
Yeah.
Is that yes?
Yes. Sorry.
That's okay. Did you end up riding in an ambulance?
Yes.
Where did they take you?
I don't know the name of the hospital.
It was a hospital though?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have to stay in the hospital or were you released that day?
I had to stay in the hospital.
Do you know how long?
All I know is it was a couple days.
Okay. Do you know what your injuries were, what was wrong with you.
Broken femur.
And what did I'm sorry, broken femur?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did they do for that? Did they put you in a cast or?
Surgery. They put a metal rod in my leg.
Okay. Is that still in there as far
Yeah.
as you know? Do you have any other injuries that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Judge, I don't have any other questions for this witness.
I don't have any questions, Chairman.
May the witness be excused.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go. Thank you.
Oh, Judge, at this time, people would redraw the court's attention to previously admitted Exhibit 13, medical records for Edward Smothers. Those were admitted by stipulation to the court earlier this week.
I don't know if this had anything with him walking out slowly, but a broken femur or thigh bone is a serious injury that requires immediate medical attention. It can be caused by severe trauma. Blah blah blah. What I wanted to see what the treatments were for it. Yeah, it just requires surgery. Okay, I'll shut up now. I just wanted to the doctor for a minute and see.
It's admitted by stipulation. Thank you.
Judge, you will call Leah Stiff.
Maybe they brought in a bunch of children to testify, and that's why, or the family, and the family refused to be on camera. The mother and father that lost their daughter and son. That might be why there was this cut in time on this hearing.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please state your name and spell your name.
My name is Leah Stith, and that is spelled Liaith.
Your last name?
Stith, Stith.
How old are you, Ms. Stiff?
I'm 18 years old.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Leah, we're recording this today, so as best as you can, if you could speak up, I would appreciate that. Thank you. Are you familiar with Swan Boat Club?
Absolutely.
How are you familiar with the boat club?
We've been going there for years and years.
As members?
Yeah, as members, I've both been there.
And were you there on April 20th?
Yep.
And what brought you to the boat club on April 20th?
It was my little cousin's birthday party.
Do you know approximately what time you would have arrived?
I would say around 2:30.
And do you remember where you were prior to the crash?
I was at the buffet area just getting food for me and my little sister.
You were standing then?
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And what do you remember about the crash itself?
It was very abrupt. It was pretty close to an explosive scene. And it was just chaos everywhere. And all you could hear was babies crying, everyone screaming. There's plenty of people injured. I actually could barely move at the time, so I wasn't able to look around too much, but once I was able to move, that's what I had seen.
Were you injured in the crash?
Pretty severely.
And how were you injured? Do you recall?
I have 3 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a pretty severely broken sternum, and multiple hematomas.
Did you receive any treatment on that day?
Yes, I was rushed to the hospital.
Do you know what hospital you were taken to?
Corwell Health in Trenton.
And were you admitted to that hospital?
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And did you stay there overnight?
Yes.
Did you stay there for multiple nights?
multiple nights.
Do you know how many nights you stayed?
I believe 2 nights and 3 days.
How are you currently doing?
It's definitely been a back and forth process. The healing just now starting to really take effect, which it's been a lot longer than I would have liked, but it's difficult to try and go about my days like I didn't just witness something extremely horrific.
It's understandable. Are you currently working? Are you able to work?
No, I'm not able to work.
The doctor has said you cannot.
Yeah.
Were you working prior to the accident?
Yes, 50 hours a week.
Are you in any sort of therapy, physical or psychological?
I'm in art therapy as well as talk therapy.
Judge, at this time, we draw the court's attention to Exhibit 12, the medical records for Leah Stitz, which were admitted to and stipulated to by the parties.
Exhibit 12 is admitted by stipulation.
I have no further questions for this witness, Judge.
Cross-examination,
No question.
will the witness be excused?
Yes, Judge.
You're free to go. Thank you. People may call their next witness.
Thank you, Judge. People call Mariah Dodds.
Please raise your right hand. You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may be seated. Please state your name and spell your name for the record.
Mariah Dodds, MariahDodds.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, Ms. Dodds. Ms. Dodds, do you remember where you went on April 20th of this year?
I went to my godson's 3rd birthday party.
Okay. And that was held at the Swan Boat Club in Newport, Michigan?
Yeah.
And that's in the county of Monroe, right?
Yes.
Did you drive there that day?
Yes.
And roughly, if you could tell us, where is the Swan Boat Club?
It's in Newport
Like, in Newport
on
on Lake
Branchy
Erie?
Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
In getting there, do you have to be let in? Are there any gates or fences that impede your getting there?
No.
Okay, is it just an open road, anybody can just drive in?
Yes.
And that's what you did that day?
Yes.
Who did you bring to the birthday party with you that day?
Myself, my mother, my 3 children, Jaden, Alana, Zane, and my nephew Edward.
So something out of the ordinary happened at the birthday party. Do you remember anything about that?
I felt like I was blacked out. I don't remember nothing.
Okay.
I just remember hearing 3 voices. That was it.
Okay. Do you remember the birthday party prior to an unusual event?
Yeah.
Do you remember where you were sitting? What your last memory of before you blacked out was?
Yeah.
What's your last memory?
I was walking back to the table my children were sitting at, eating, and thing.
Okay. Remember hearing a crash?
Yeah.
Remember where you wound after the crash?
No.
You said you voices.
Yeah.
Is that all you remember from the scene of the crash?
Yeah.
Do you know whose voices they were?
I believe they were my sister Raquel, my friend Tweety, and may have been my niece Lily. So between those three,
What was the nature of those voices? How did they sound?
they sounded long distance.
And do you remember anything else from the scene that day?
No.
What's your next memory?
Waking up in the hospital,
Okay. Did you know where you were?
kind of. I had my eyes squinted and I seen the surroundings, knowing that I was in a hospital room.
Was anyone with you?
My sister Raquel.
Do you know how long after the crash you initially woke up?
No.
Do you know how long you were in the hospital in total?
My sister and my family members told me it was 3 days or 4 days.
Okay.
4 days.
And you don't know how long you were out of consciousness?
No.
Did you receive any injuries as a result of the crash?
Yes.
What were those?
I had 6 broken ribs, a collapsed lung. I was missing a tooth, I had mouth injuries. I had a cut on my chin. My lips had to be stitched back together. I had a hematoma. I had a broken shoulder blade. And I had a concussion.
Are you still dealing with those injuries or are they all healed?
I'm sore still, but I'm getting therapy.
Do you have any trouble breathing still from the ribs in your lung?
It's discomfort.
Okay. Was there any intervention for the collapsed lung? Did they do anything to your body because of that?
I had a chest tube put in
Okay. Like through your throat or?
through my rib cage.
Okay. So they had to cut you to put a chest tube into your lung?
Yes.
Your son Jaden was with you at the party.
Yes.
Do you have recollection of him being at the table with you and Zane and Alana?
I am not sure.
Okay. What's your last memory of Jaden and his location before the crash?
He was, I want to say close by the table, but he wasn't sitting at the table.
And he's your son, correct?
Yes.
And how old is he?
12.
Okay. And do you know if Jaden was hospitalized as a result of the crash?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know how long Jaden was hospitalized?
2 weeks.
Okay. What injuries did he receive?
He had broken ribs. He had several broken bones through his body, on his legs. He had a deep cut in the back of his head. It had to be stapled. He also had a collapsed lung as well as a chest tube. He had a broken pelvis.
Did he have to have any, for lack of a better medical term, hardware put in for the broken bones?
Yes.
What was that?
There were rods put in both of his legs.
Okay. And obviously you had to have surgery for that.
Yes.
Okay. How is Jaden doing now?
He still can't walk.
Okay.
He's in a hospital bed still in our living room.
So you have to have home care for him?
Yeah.
Is he in any kind of therapy right now? What kinds?
Physical therapy, occupational therapy, and he has regular nurses that come. And he has appointments outside of the home, getting x-rays to see the status of his injuries, to see what the next step is for him to walk, to try to walk.
Judge, I don't have any further questions.
Jeez, she ruined that family.
I don't have any questions, John.
Witness be excused.
Yes, Judge. And Your Honor, at this time, I call the court's attention to the stipulated exhibits. 15 medical records for Mariah Dodds and 16 medical records for Jaden Phillips that were previously admitted and submitted to the court through stipulation.
Both are admitted through stipulation.
Thank you, Judge.
That family will never be the same.
Judge, people call Detective Josh Modelinski.
Oh my God, bless her heart.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You may be seated. Detective, please state and spell your name.
Detective Josh Modelinski, JoshMotylinski.
People may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, it's redundant, but what is your job?
I'm a detective with the Monroe County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, how long have you been a detective?
I've been a detective just over 2.5 years,
Okay, and how long have you worked for the Monroe County Sheriff's Department?
12 years.
Did you have any other jobs in law enforcement prior to that?
No.
And you were so employed on April 20th of this year,
Yes,
and you're a certified police officer, entitled to be a police officer in the state of Michigan,
yes,
and you were at that time as well.
yes.
What is your role in this investigation?
I was the detective on call on April 20th. My supervisor, Detective Sergeant Hooper, called me a little after 3 o'clock and advised me of the situation at the Swan Boat Club and asked me to respond from my house in my unmarked patrol vehicle.
Roughly where did you respond from?
My house is located in Temperance, Michigan, right around the area of Lewis and Temperance Road.
Okay. So, and then where's the Swan Boat Club located?
It's up in Newport off Branchau Road.
Okay. To get to the boat club, did you face any physical impediments?
The highway which I typically get on at Pier Road, it was construction, different route. Went through the city of Monroe to Elm Street to North Dick, out toward the boat club that way.
Once you got out near the boat club into the neighborhoods that surround it, are there any fences or gates or anything that blocked your entry?
No.
The boat club is accessible to the public.
Yes.
Anyone can drive that.
Yes.
So you're the officer in charge of this case, is that correct?
Correct.
So once you arrive on the scene, what do you do first?
I meet with the other deputies and supervisors on scene to get a rundown of the situation, as I was not a first responder. Got a baseline of what kind of happened, and then my job from there was to do the medical examination investigations of the 2 deceased children that were at the scene.
And do you examine the scene as a whole?
Correct. Yes.
From your examination of the scene, are you able, as far as the named victims in this complaint are concerned, able to tell us where within the venue they were located?
After the crash?
After the crash.
Yes, after the crash. Edward Smothers was in the breezeway between the boat club and the bar area of the pavilion, or the pavilion and the bar area of the actual boat club itself, that breezeway. Miss Dodds was also in the breezeway. She was pulled out from underneath a door that had come off the hinges going into the pavilion.
And the other living victims, Miss Stitt, Miss Dina, and Mr. Phillips, where were they located?
Mr. Phillips was located behind the bar in the pavilion, towards the front end of where the car had entered in the building and stopped at its location. Miss Medina was against the bar in the pavilion, probably on the ground in, I would approximate, the middle area of the bar. And then Miss Stith was also against the bar farther away from Miss Medina in the car towards the end of the bar.
You indicated a moment ago that you did the medical examiner investigation in this case.
Correct.
And what is a medical examiner investigation?
Anytime somebody passes away of unnatural causes and the doctor won't sign a death certificate, one of our detectives who are trained to be a medical examiner investigator have to go out to make sure there's nothing suspicious and basically examine bodies and do a scene overview for the coroner's office so that when we send the bodies down to the coroner's office, the doctors that do the autopsies and such have a understanding of the scene and what happened, the situation by the person became deceased.
Okay, so the idea of the investigation is to give a context to the medical exam.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And that happens in both crime scenes and non-crime scenes.
Correct.
And this obviously was a crime scene.
Correct.
And you conducted a medical examiner investigation here. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what was the nature of that? What were your findings?
I found there were 2 juvenile decedents that we shipped down to the coroner's office. After the coroner did their autopsies, I received reports back for both Zane and death for Zane.
Well, just 1 second on that. Let's talk about your investigation first, a little bit before we get to the results. Where, first as to Zane, where was he located in relationship to the crash? Where was he found?
After the crash occurred, he was located pinned between the front driver's side tire and near the wall area where the car came to a rest.
Okay. Was he still there when detectives and law enforcement arrived?
He was not. Several civilians had lifted the car and pulled him out, and they took him out out of the pavilion where the vehicle entered onto that grass area where medical personnel arrived.
Okay. As to Alana Phillips, where was she eventually located?
Lana was located on the passenger side, front passenger side, near the tires, the front of the car. She was pinned up against the wall, the door frame, for the pavilion to the walkway.
And unfortunately, both Zane and Alana were deceased at the scene.
Correct.
Detective, I'm going to hand you what's previously been marked People's Exhibit 10. This is, you just read the top of that and tell me what that is.
So Lucas County Coroner's Office case summary on the death of Alana Grace Phillips.
Okay. Judge, people believe that this is self-authenticating document under 76611B. Move for its admission.
Your Honor, I thought when we discussed this that I stipulated to the medical examiner's reports that there was, that we'd stipulate to the entry.
Oh,
And
I
there was
believe
no
we
need
did
for-
do that, Judge. It's also self-authenticating. though.
Stipulated to,
Right, okay,
it's
thank you.
admitted for stipulation.
Thank you, Judge. And just as to that, Detective, could you just review that document and proffer for the court what the cause and manner of death is?
Yes. Cause of death is multiple blunt force injuries. The manner of death is accident.
Thank you. Detective, I'll hand you this second document. And if you could tell the court what the title of that document is.
Lucas County Coroner's Office case summary on the death of Zane Isaac Phillips.
In your honor, same situation here. People believe it's self-authenticating by statute and it's been stipulated to by defense.
That's correct, Your Honor. We stipulated to it. I think there's a court order to that effect.
It's admitted pursuant to stipulation.
Thank you, Judge. And Detective, same thing here. If you could just review that briefly and proffer for the court what the manner and cause of death in this case is.
Cause of death, multiple blunt force trauma, and in parentheses it says second dash minutes. Manner of death, accident.
Thank you, Detective. Judge, I don't have any further questions for the detective.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Officer, you said the autopsy reports that you just read, that the manner of death was accidental, am I correct?
That's what the coroner's office ruled. It. The manner of death is yes.
I don't have any other questions.
Any direct?
No redirect, Judge.
You may stand back. People may call their next witness.
Judge, at this time, people have no further evidence to present.
Do the people rest?
People do.
Any witnesses for the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Does the defense rest?
Defense rests.
You may proceed with motion and argument.
Judge, people move to bind over on all 9 counts in the amended complaint. Your Honor, people believe they've established date, venue, and the identification of the defendant. Throughout the course of this exam, the court had an opportunity to view body-worn cameras from Sergeant Bomia and Deputy Karina. In both of those body-worn camera videos, the defendant acknowledges her operation of the vehicle at the time of the crash. People's exhibits from the Michigan State Police Crime Lab indicate an intoxication level of 0.18 blood alcohol. Those lab reports were statutorily admitted. The people also submitted a second lab report that indicates a finding of gabapentin in the defendant's blood at the time of the crash. The ME reports, the medical examiner reports that were just admitted, established the cause and manner of death as to the decedents, Zane and Alana Phillips. Both died as a result of multiple blunt force traumas as a result of a car collision. People believe that the medical records entered and the testimony of the live victims here today establish a serious impairment of body function sufficient to show probable cause for counts 5 through 9. That's taking from MCL 257.58C. People believe that the broken bones, punctured lungs, major bone breaks, loss of consciousness, kind of established by all the victims, qualify as a serious impairment of body function under the statute and meet that element. The medical records, medical examiner's reports, videos, defendant's admissions, and the victim's testimony illustrate that the deaths and injuries in this incident were a direct result of the defendant's operation of the motor vehicle. Defendant's operation was the factual and the proximate cause of the deaths and injuries in this case. People believe there's ample evidence to support a probable cause finding of that conclusion. People believe that that establishes probable cause on counts 3 through 9. As to counts 1 and 2, other than the proofs previously noted, the people have established probable cause that victims Zane and Alana died as a result of defendant's actions. People have established probable cause for the court to find that the defendant knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be the likely result of her actions. To that end, Judge, evidence presented today shows that defendant possessed a BAC of 0.18, the legal limit in the state of Michigan being 0.08 for an OWI charge and 0.17 for a high BAC OWI charge. Over both of those limits, the defendant acknowledged in her interview with Deputy Karina that she should not have been driving. In People versus Gecki, Judge, 457 Mich 442 1998, the Supreme Court found that both of these factors can be considered by a finder of fact to support a second-degree murder charge in a traffic or drunk driving case. Further, judge evidence was presented that the defendant operated her vehicle at an excessive speed, that being nearly 45 miles an hour through a parking lot or a private drive, where at best the speed limit is 25 miles an hour. Excessive speed was held a factor to support that the defendant created a high risk of death or great bodily harm in People v. Aldridge. That's 246 Mishap 101 2001 case. Further, judge, defendant left the scene of a property damage accident right in front of her house. That's by backing into her neighbor's truck in front of her driveway. That's the video that the court saw provided by Detective Hoover. In the unrecorded case, judge, of People versus Del Piano, a 2012 case by the Michigan Court of Appeals that can be found at Westlaw 3046157, found this to be a factor supporting second-degree murder charge in an OWI incident. And finally, Judge, the Gecki case notes that in cases of this nature, in order to sustain the intent element for second-degree murder, the incident should have an overall egregiousness quality. Here, people point out that the defendant's BAC was not only twice the legal limit, but she also had gabapentin in her system. She acknowledged to Deputy Karina that she was intoxicated. She scored herself a 7 out of 10 for intoxication. Further, the defendant left her home in her condition, knowing that she was traveling to a small child's birthday party. The defendant was aware that there would be small children at the boat club that day, maybe not just inside, but maybe also in the parking lot. This was not an ordinary drunk driving crash, Judge. The defendant did not run a red light and strike a car going in the opposite direction. She did not fail to stop in an assured clear distance and rear end someone. She drove her car at almost 45 miles an hour through a building where dozens of people, many of them small children, were having a birthday party. People believe that those factors satisfy the overly egregious quality cited by the Supreme Court in Gecki. For that reason, people ask that the court bind over on all 9 counts.
Thank you. Argument from the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think it's unquestioned or substantiated that my client suffered from neuropathy and seizures, that she had a history of it. There was nothing to prove otherwise. The officer testified he received through a subpoena the medicals. They're asking for second-degree murder. Your Honor, second-degree murder has some sort of intent involved. There's been absolutely no intent proven through any of the evidence, stipulated or otherwise. It's either that intends to kill the victim or cause severe harm and not with premeditation. The statute right on point. So there was no intent by my client whatsoever. Did she, and then second is, did my client intend to cause serious bodily harm that death could result? There's no testimony whatsoever that my client operated her vehicle with the intent for that to occur. If this was a crowd in a parking lot, in a street, and she didn't like somebody in the crowd, as an example, and she wanted to hit that person, and she ended up hitting several people or another person, then that would be second-degree murder. There's an intent to operate the vehicle, her vehicle, in such a manner. There is some intent. There was no intent whatsoever here. There's been no proven. In fact, when the officer sat my client down and conducted an interview and had the body camera from the other officer on, my client spoke just like we're speaking today. There was no slur. There was no, what's my thought? I don't know where I'm at. I don't know what's going on. And a slur that would accompany such a high blood level of alcohol. And so I proposed to the court that had the blood sample result properly been, and I understand, Judge, when I say properly, I don't mean to draw anything to the court. The court followed the statute, that the results are self-admission, are authenticating. But if the person that did the draw was here, if the person that did the testing was here, I don't think it would be proper of the 0.18 or what's been openly thrown about in the courtroom. I asked the officer, was there a seal? And the officer says at first, several times, I don't know. Well, of course there's got to be a seal on these. They have to be sterile. So then finally he did say that there was something white on it, even though he's done this several times. So then I asked him, well, how was it sent? And he didn't have a good memory at all on that. And he's the one that's in charge. He's the one that's in charge of drawing the blood, which is extremely serious of whether proving my client's guilty or not guilty, or should even be charged. If somebody has a history of medical issues, that she was even hospitalized in November of 23. Nobody told her not to drive after 6 months. She waited 6 months and a couple weeks after that to drive. Your Honor, there's just no evidence whatsoever that she acted in a manner that would cause a death. We know for sure that the vehicle was driving at a higher rate of speed, whether it be 43, 44 miles an hour in an area that's 25 or 30 or something like that was mentioned. There's different speed limits. So that would be about 10 over, 15 over about, depending on what's the correct speed in that area. She didn't, there's no proof that she intentionally put her foot right down there and just go right into the wall. What it does make sense is that she did have a seizure and neuropathy that freezes her feet and hands down seconds wise. That's what it does make sense. Because here's this person with a perfect record in 50 years that all of a sudden is pushing it to the floor to take off to go right to the boat club where she served as Commodore, where she's going for the birthday party, where she knows everybody there. Just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I understand there's a lot of questions of fact, Your Honor, I respect that, but it's just not a murder too. It just doesn't rise to that. It doesn't, they don't go up to her right afterwards and say, why'd you do it? And she say, that son of a gun, I wanted to get him, or I'm ticked off at the boat club, or whatever. None of that. She's very calm. So it doesn't rise to the level of this intentional. And that's what it is. It's intentional. The others are general intent, drunk driving and things like that. But this is intentional. The actions have to be, because it carries up to life. So it's going to be pretty serious. And so the actions just aren't there, honestly, Judge. And I don't even think it rises to the level, it's a question of fact. Or else everybody could be charged that there's an accident, somebody seriously hurt with murder too. It's a question of fact for the jury. Judge, respectfully, this shouldn't be a murder too. There's other counts of is there a serious injury and things like that based upon the blood alcohol level of the report itself, and that's it. I understand, and I respect the court on that. But murder too, it's just not there, Judge. And then lastly, I ask questions, is this area open to the public? Because drunk driving on private property, if it wasn't, I dispute it fully. It's on private property and not public. And if I may just have one moment, Your Honor. The police executed the search warrant and found that she had consumed, according to her testimony, 1 glass of wine.
Objection, Judge. I'm sorry, what testimony would that be?
I believe you're stating facts, not an evidence.
Okay, I thought that she had said that she had a glass of wine, and I apologize. I thought that was said. The court would know if it was, and it wasn't, but it's in the report somewhere, but I understand it's not before the court. So they're interviewing her, Your Honor.
She had more than that.
She had just gone through a walk at 40, 44 miles an hour. Now they're interviewing her and they're asking her questions. I don't know if any of us would be in the right state of mind after we just went through a wall with our car at 40 miles an hour. So they're interviewing her, Judge, and they're asking, do you feel you could operate a motor vehicle? Well, of course she said no. I can't operate a motor vehicle. She just was in a collision 15 minutes prior, 20 minutes prior. Then they ask her, you know, alcohol or whatever wise, you know, 1 out of 10, where do you put yourself? She doesn't even, just imagine I'm going through a wall and then 20 minutes later somebody say, how do you feel? Okay, so I don't know about her having her faculties, and I understand that could be a question of fact, certainly, Your Honor. But the murder too, we just really argue strenuously that it just doesn't exist with regard to this record. Thank you. Nothing further.
Any rebuttal argument from the group?
I know the court knows this, but I just draw the court to the third state of mind available in murder two, which is a defendant knowingly created a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that death or such harm would be the likely result of their actions.
In the operative word, if I may.
People get the.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say knowingly.
All right, this is a preliminary examination. The standard of proof is probable cause. I've heard the testimony presented by the people. I've reviewed the exhibits, seen the video. It has, this evidence has been uncontroverted today by the defense. As to count 1 and count 2, homicide, murder in the second degree. The evidence has established by probable cause that both of the victims named in the complaint died an unnatural death due to the crash caused by the defendant. The question then becomes intent. Under common law and under Michigan law, you do not need to intend to kill someone to be convicted of second-degree murder. It can be done with depraved indifference to human life or with depraved heart. And Michigan is defined as knowingly creating a very high risk of death or great bodily harm, knowing that that death or harm would be the likely result of her actions. In this case, the defendant was operating her vehicle with a blood alcohol level of 0.18, as admitted today. She was driving at a high rate of speed, almost 45 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour area. She did this after she crashed into another vehicle, as the video showed. She was accelerating towards the building where the victims were located. Reviewing those factors, I do find she acted with depraved indifference to human life. Therefore, I am binding over on count 1 and 2, murder in the second degree.
Cool.
As to counts 3 and 4, operating while intoxicated causing death. On the following, the defendant was operating a motor vehicle. She did operate it on a place open to the public or generally accessible to motor vehicles. Under the statute, that also includes any designated parking area. The evidence does show that. Third, the defendant was intoxicated. The evidence shows that her blood alcohol level was a 0.17 at the time of the offense. Fourth, the defendant voluntarily decided to drive knowing that she consumed alcohol. The evidence circumstantially does prove that. Fifth, that the defendant's operation of the vehicle caused the death of the 2 main victims as to this case. And that but for the defendant's operation of this vehicle, it would not have occurred. I do find that her actions are the direct and proximate cause of these victims' death. As to counts 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, operating while intoxicated causing serious injury. Incorporate all of my prior findings as to those elements. I also find all of the named victims through their testimony and through the medical evidence shows that there has been a serious impairment of bodily function as defined by MCL 257.58C. Therefore, the defendant is bound over to the 38th Circuit Court to stand trial on all charges.
Awesome.
Would you like an arraignment on July the 5th or July the 5th?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. You said July 5th or what day?
For the 12th, it'll be at 9 a.m.
July 12th at 9 a.m. That sounds good.
And it will be arraigned in the 38th Circuit Court on July the 12th at 9 a.m. Anything else to address at this time?
Not from the people. Thank you, Judge.
Not Your Honor.
Court is adjourned.
Okay, we saw some justice today, guys.
Court's in recess. May be seated.
Still a long way to go, but I did not know that she was going to the party. And I did a previous report on this case. Well, I did a previous report where they did I think it was one of the hearings, one of the arraignments or whatever, when she was originally taken in. Anyway, I did one of the hearings, and nowhere in that hearing did I find out. Plus, some of the stuff that we watched. I mean, I didn't do a huge deep dive on this, but I just had no idea. I had no idea that she was connected to these people either by friendship. It sounds like he mentioned something about being a commodore to the boat club. So if she was on the board of the boat club and was representing the boat, that doesn't sound right, but I don't know. And the boat club, just an FYI, it's probably drawn up like a homeowners association, but it's a boat owners association, or it could be a homeowners association with boats being included in all of the stuff. I just mortgage and stuff like that. I'm just kind of wondering, like, if she was going. It sounded like she was going to the party as a visitor. Am I right, Patty? Miss Patricia, Miss Pattykins, longtime sub. Fill us in the chat, please, or in the comments, and let us know you're over there in this area. I know you've been following this really closely because it's like right in your backyard. Let us know your thoughts on this. I'll do some more delving in this, you guys. I feel like I don't know how much of the trial we would cover, but I would definitely like to follow everything up until the trial. Just to kind of keep you guys updated as to what's going on. So, with that being said, stay tuned. More to come. Thanks everyone for listening. Y'all have a blessed day.